But two, you know, also you left out some other information. He was a really good ball player. We played for the Lincoln Tigers, the high school Tigers. Many of you all recall the basketball greatness of the Tigers, LaFonso Ellis and others. You know, he was a much better player than me. I think when I saw him today, I think I saw some gray hairs. I might could take him now. But nevertheless, we are certainly happy to have him with us today. I see here that he continued his education at Kentucky State University. He earned his degree in health and physical education. He also is currently, he also finished his master's in administration and currently is working on his doctorate as well. I see his beautiful wife, Ms. Israr Muhammad. Give, you know, let the people say, give her a nice round of applause. And her beautiful children. He has also been serving currently as the administrator for the last 10 years in the Atlanta, Georgia area. But also, Patrick, I told you he was very special. He's also a member of he's also a member, we are members of the same fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, which is the oldest black fraternity that was founded in 1906. But also, more importantly, he also authors many books. And I was speaking to him and his wife earlier, and they brought some sample of their books. We have a couple in our library, and they are great books. My librarian, Ms. Lemons, was just quite pleased at how receptive the kids were to his books. So he did bring some books with him tonight. I asked before you leave out, stop by the desk and look at his books. But without further ado, let me present Patrick Muhammad. Give him a big round of applause.
I'm from Atlanta, you have to give a bigger round of applause. Give me 1 second to set up. And I know this is my first time in Mount Vernon, but in just a second you're going to realize that I'm kind of an animated guy. And I'm glad that they had the wireless microphone because I cannot stand still. And when I was coming up in school, it was before a lot of the new diagnoses that they have with the children. So fortunately, they didn't have many of those diagnoses when I was coming up. But first of all, I want to say thank you so much for allowing me to come, actually to come home. East St. Louis is where I was born and raised, and I've been in Atlanta for the last 14 years. And it's a tad bit different in Atlanta than it is in East St. Louis. But it's always good to come home. And I don't want to hold you long, but I'm just going to cover just from 1400 to 2010. Just a couple hundred years. We're going to go through a little bit of history. But I'd like to thank Dr. Settle for allowing me to come and welcome me here. I'd like to also thank Dr. Tyler Brown. Did I see Mr. Brown? Mr. Brown is here. And Dr. Rice. Give him another round of applause. Now, I had to tease him a little bit because, you know, as being Patricks growing up, you know, we were rivals. And so who was the best Patrick? And so now he's got one up on me. I completed my coursework, but I haven't finished my dissertation. But the reason I haven't finished is the topic is very interesting. My dissertation is called Father Anonymous. Father Anonymous. I'm studying how much does the impact of fathers have on their children being ready to school, for school. So I had to do a lot of research and just continue on. But I want to get right into it because I have a lot to share. Now, he did tell you that I'm a former basketball player, and if you hear my knees crack a little bit, it's okay. No one rush to the stage and don't call 911. It's just an old basketball injury. But today I want to talk about the subject that I was given, civil rights equals human rights. Everyone is equal. Say civil rights, equals human rights. And we got to do it better than that now. Okay? Say civil rights, equals human rights. Everyone is equal.
Everyone is equal.
Now, in a utopia, that would be perfect. But it's taking us some time to qualify both sides. Now, I would say that human rights comes first. Because as a human, regardless of creed, class, or color, you should have some basic rights as a human. After human rights, then there are some civil rights. That's what makes us all equal. But today we're going to quickly go through a couple hundred of years so we can see how can we get to that point and have we made it. So why does civil rights equals human rights? Who will bring in civil rights, human rights, and equality? How will civil rights, human rights, and equality look? And when will civil rights, human rights become a reality? Because clearly it's not a reality right now. But one day we all hope that it will become a reality. Now I have some quotes that I want to give you. This quote is from Dr. King. He says, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy." Right now there's a lot of challenge, right? In this country. There's a lot of controversy. But where do you stand when opposition comes? Another quote by Sojourner Truth. "Truth is powerful and it prevails." Students, no matter what you do in life, always stand on the truth. See, when you tell a lie, it leads to another. Then you tell 2 lies to cover each other. Then you tell 3 lies and you say, "Oh, brother," because you cannot keep up with all those lies. So tell the truth all the time. Mr. Gandhi said, "You must not lose faith in humanity. Humanity is as an ocean. If a few drops of the ocean are dirty, the ocean does not become dirty." Just because there's some bad apples in the bunch doesn't mean everyone has to be a bad apple. Growing up in East St. Louis, we were told, you'll be dead by 18, in jail by 18, or selling drugs. So Patrick and I were determined not to be a statistic. And in East St. Louis, we had a certain culture that you become the hero for someone who didn't make it. So they began to live their life through you. So I couldn't fail because I wouldn't fail for Patrick. There were other people behind me that will fail too. All right, let's move on. All right, a famous person that everybody should quote often, Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey says, "Don't change who you are for everyone. You will never make progress. Be yourself." Students, be yourself. Find your own identity. You do not have to change every time the wind blows. You do not have to change every time Jordan comes out with a new sneaker. You do not have to change every time the pants go high, then the pants go low, then we get skinny jeans, then we get big jeans. Don't be yourself. As long as you be yourself, you will be successful. Now, can I prove that? Let me tell you a little bit about myself, real quick. If anyone laughs, we have locked the doors. I'm going to grab your ID and report you, okay? So if you see anybody look familiar, do not laugh. So this is my childhood. Growing up in East St. Louis, I don't know why my mother put that red thing on my tie. That's us again there. That's at Disney World. Notice the overalls. I didn't conform to the changes going on in the community. I wore those same overalls that probably my sister wore as well. You can laugh, it's okay. I don't know what happened to my tooth there. For some reason, it was not in the photograph. There's a certain way you got to push it. All right, there we go. Patrick, you know what that day is?
Oh, yeah.
That's senior day at Lincoln. That's my mom. Gonna make it go a little faster. That's graduation, a milestone. We were trying to go swimming, but we couldn't find any water. Just moving along. We thought Michael Jackson was in, so we all had curls and afros. I couldn't get the little curly swirl in the middle, though. That's me in basketball. Didn't realize that that little orange ball would take me out of the hood. And literally, folks, that little orange ball took me out of the hood. Because I was dedicated to doing it every day. There's still a milk crate on the side of my mother's house at 764 Vogel Place. I would shoot that milk crate all day long because my dad said if you could put a round ball in a square hole, you could put a round ball in a round hole. And so that basketball really saved and changed my life. Moving right along. I started getting into fashion a little bit. That's my Bill Cosby sweater there. That's us in Virginia. That's homecoming. I'm not going to tell you who I ran against. I'm not going to tell you who I ran against. Hint, hint. Anyway, but this right here is my father and I at graduation from college. My dad didn't graduate from college, but he graduated through me. Since I graduated, both of my sisters have graduated from college and have multiple degrees. My mother and her 6 sisters have completed their associates in theology, their bachelor's in theology, and in August, my mother and her 6 sisters will graduate with their master's in theology. Because any man that goes out in search of knowledge should never return. If you go out and say you found it, you lost it. Because knowledge is infinite. Now, see this guy right here in the basketball shorts at Kentucky State? I had a signature defense move. Now, don't laugh. See how low I can get. When it was crunch time and we needed to steal the ball, and coach would say, Pat, get it. And I would get close, and I would hit the ground, I would say, ah, and I would spread my hands out. He would say, drop and open. And it didn't matter. When that guy dribbled that ball, he knew in his eyes what was in my eyes. I'm taking that ball from you. I'm going to score that last point. We're going to win. I'm going to be the hero. You're going to be sad. But it didn't matter. Anytime I got uncomfortable, I could drop and open wide. So I want you to do it with me. Stand up. Stand up now. Come on. Everybody, everybody, everybody. All right. On the count of 3, I want you to drop and open wide. 1, 2, 3, drop and open wide. One more time. Here we go. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, drop, open wide. Last time, drop, open wide. All right, have a seat. Now, when you drop down, you're focusing, right? You're focusing, right? You're keeping your eye on your opponent. But when you open wide, you're not narrowing your vision. You can see left and you can see right. In education, in life, sometimes you have to focus. I don't want you to narrow your focus because you have to see what's coming on your left or your right, but sometimes you have to learn how to focus. So yesterday I had an opportunity to go to the Ron Clark Academy. And many of you may have seen him on Oprah, and they had the movie about him. And Ron kept telling me, he said, Patrick, I teach you to focus. And he would say focus, and all the students could be doing anything, they would focus. So for today, just for a few moments, I want you to focus on the information I'm giving, because there's only a couple points of history that you don't know that I'm going to share. Everything else we heard it time and time again, but there's a couple key points that I wanted to pick on. So we're going to move fast. My battery is running low. Focus. You give it a little juice. Everybody all right? Uh-huh. All right, we're okay. Mr. Backus, right?
Right.
I was talking to Mr. Backus this morning. I don't think he knew that I was in Atlanta when I talked to him. I said, you know, I just need a couple items. But my wife and I drove, and my children drove from Atlanta, Georgia at 10:30 a.m. today. And we drove 400 and something miles in 6 hours, 15 minutes. Whoa. So there was a certain time factor that we had to meet, right? So to meet that time factor, there's a certain speed factor that you have to incorporate. But what I want the children and the parents to focus on today is a timeline. It's a timeline. We're going to go through a timeline today, because in a timeline, there's a starting point and there's an ending point. But what happens in the middle is so important. I'm just going to flash through these slides real quick. It's so important. Now, can I get 3 volunteers? 1, 2, 3. Thank you, volunteers. Come on up. 1, 2, 3. Come on, come on. Thank you, volunteers. That's what happens. You sit in the front. Teachers always say sit in the front of the class. Here's 1 volunteer. All right. Now, in life, this is beginning, middle, and this is the end. Okay? You're going to start somewhere, right? You're going to start at the beginning. Then you're going to progress in life. Take 1 step up, young man. As you progress in life, you should be able to measure the degree of growth from point A to point B. As you continue to acquire more education, more knowledge, more experience, you're going to keep growing. Take 1 more step. All right. So there should be some progression from the beginning to whatever point we call time. Now, if at any point you begin to decrease too quick, then you're losing time. So if you start here at the top of society or the top of a culture, and you begin to decrease quickly, then you're losing time and you're losing the value that you started with. You with me? All right. So have a seat. Give them a round of applause. So timeline, and that's my son. Let's use it. Timeline is what we're talking about today. So in Black History Month, you know, it's 28 days. It was a week. It was a day. It was a week. It's 28 days. But Black History Month should last year long, right? Because students have to learn their history. Those that don't know their history are doomed to repeat their history. So if the only textbooks start with slavery in the history books, then the children don't know at what point they started. They could have started up here, but all of the books tell them they started here. So they lost time and they lost value. So someone has to come and someone has to give information so that they can learn about where they started. So we're going from 1401 to year 2010 in 3 minutes. All right? Now, the history books say 1619 when they documented slavery. One fact I want you to remember, that's all I want you to get today. The first slave ship arrived in 1555 by a guy named Sir John Hawkins. But from 1555 to 1619 are 64 critical years that they do not put in the history books. These were the 64 years where they took the Africans from where they were at their status and they broke them all the way down to where they were now, quote unquote, slaves. There was a breaking period that's not documented. But that breaking period, they lost value, they lost time, they lost humanity. If no one goes to replace those 64 years, guess what? You may begin to make progress. Slowly, but look how far you have come. Okay? You with me? All right. Now, say the door of no return. Oh, we got to say it louder. Say the door of no return. Just imagine if you went to work and you closed your door. Say, honey, I'll see you later. You close the door. You got in your car, you went to work. And your wife never saw you again. She saw you go out the door, but you never came back. When many of the slaves, not many, but when all the slaves went through this door, they had no idea what was on the side of the door. But they called the door of no return because once they walked through those doors, they went directly on the ships and they never made it back to that door. So it's called the door of no return. Very important. I want you, that's one of those things, say, drop and open up. I want you to remember that, all right? Okay, here we go. That's what's on the other side, it's in the Atlantic Ocean. So as they went through the door, they got right on the ships. Now, civil rights. Civil rights is categorized from 1896 to 1954, and then from 1955 to 1968. Something happened April 4th, 1968, everybody knows about, and that is, right, Dr. King got killed. Excellent response. Something happened April 4th, 1968, everybody knows about it, what it was? Dr. King got shot and assassinated, okay? So you see it says civil rights ended in 68. Now if we said human rights equals civil rights, then all humans, all humans should have civil rights. So how could civil rights have a beginning and an ending if humanity does not have a beginning and an ending, correct? All right, moving right along. So these are some key facts. And I'll leave the slide with Dr. Rice. So you can go over this. But segregation. Jackie Robinson, huge when he broke the color barrier into Major League Baseball. The Lily White movement, disfranchisement, criminal law, the Black Church, the NAACP, the Scottsboro Boys. These are very key facts that everyone should know. Everyone should know, right? There's Jackie Robinson. Civil and political rights are a class of rights and freedoms that protect individuals from unwarranted government action and ensures one ability to participate in the civil and political life of the state without discrimination or repression. Everyone must have the opportunities to civil rights. But what was happening in America? Civil rights should include a person's physical integrity and safety, protection from discrimination, gender, religion, race, sexual orientation, natural origin, equal access to health care, education, and culture. Equal access to what? Health care. Is that a debate today? Is that a black issue? Is that a white issue? Is that a Hispanic issue? No, that's a human rights issue. So that makes it a civil rights issue because it's not civil rights plus human rights. It's civil rights equals human rights. Who's the math teacher here? Dr. Rice, who's your math teacher here? So if I have an equal sign, that means whatever's on the left is equal to what is on the right. Is that correct? Is that correct? Now the superintendent here, don't make me moving right along. Couple of things that happened. United States Supreme Court decision, Plessy versus Ferguson, which upheld separate but equal racial segregation and constitutional doctrine, and Brown versus Board of Education. Both ends of the spectrum, but very key in what happened in civil rights in America. Three-fifth compromise. Three-fifth compromise was something that, growing up, I had no idea what they were talking about with three-fifth compromise. But the three-fifth compromise meant that a black man or woman was only three-fifths of a human being as related to a vote. But it was only about gathering enough votes for the North and the South, okay? Because the South had slaves. So if they got three-fifths of a person, then they had more votes, which means they had more power, which means they controlled the government, which means they reigned in the presidency, okay? But at one point, when do you go from three-fifths back to a whole person? Drop and focus. So if someone is three-fifths, who made the amendment to make them a whole person again? All right. Here we go. A couple other key facts. You got to know Brown versus Board of Education, Rosa Parks, bus boycott, the sit-ins, the freedom rights, integration in Mississippi University, Albany movement. Now, for me going up from East St. Louis and then going to the South was a total, well, first, I went from East St. Louis to Kentucky. Frankfort, Kentucky. So I went from, see, like stray dogs and cats, to walking through the doors and being attacked by raccoons. Okay? And possums and deers running, and for 4 years I could not find any bluegrass. I would wake up every morning trying to find it, but I didn't see it. So I went through a little shift, right? But moving to the South, oh my goodness. There's a big shift, but there's a rich heritage and history that you must know when you live in the South. Okay? In the Midwest, we're kind of those easygoing people. Everybody gets along. So it's a little different. But in the South, there's still a long way to go. Okay, now, August 28, 1963, Dr. King's famous speech was? No, it was not. The speech was not, I have a dream. The speech was free at last. And that's why at the end it says, free at last, thank God Almighty, I'm free. So Dr. King named it that because he knew at the end he'd give that big punch about free at last. But as he was going through, one of his colleagues from the back said, Doc, tell him about the dream. Tell him about the dream. So he went into the spiel about, I have a dream. But that was not the name of the speech. But now Dr. King has been pigeonholed into this capsule of having a dream. But it wasn't about a dream. He was saying we need to be free at last. So what was so key about Dr. King saying free at last and not I have a dream? Because in your dream, it's fantasy world. A dream is not reality. And if someone doesn't wake you up from your dream, then you can fall a stupor in your dream. I'm dreaming of a super duper mansion and, okay, but I gotta work to get to that, right? So if you stay in dream world, you don't make it a reality. So it was called free at last. And who is this right here, this young handsome man right there? That's President Kennedy, right? And that's Dr. King right there, right? Now look at this history. Move real quick. Civil Rights Act, 1964. Very important, right? Who is this right here? That's Dr. King, right? Lyndon B. Johnson, okay? Then you go to the voting rights, 1965. Dr. King still alive. There's a lot of action going on, right? Look at this. This is the Civil Rights Act. It was signed April 11, 1968. What happened on April 4th, 1968? Dr. King is not in that picture. You know why? Because he's dead. He's dead, but the energy that he and the movement had still compelled Lyndon B. Johnson to bring forth the Civil Rights Act of 1968. So it's not where you start, children. It's the energy that you have, it's the conviction that you have that goes beyond your physical frame, your physical being. So if you're not successful in first grade, or you're not successful on a spelling test this week, it doesn't mean that you just stop. If you're not successful on the algebra equation, you don't just stop. You have to continue on because there's so much more that you have to gain. Are we all right? So that's April 4th, Lorraine Hotel, Memphis, Tennessee. If you've never been there, and look, now, we have to stop the tables. I'm teasing. But listen, I was in Atlanta for about 7 years and didn't realize that the King Museum was downtown Atlanta. I I was thinking that it was in Memphis. But King was in downtown Atlanta. Why is that significant, family? That's extremely significant because I went to an all-black high school, an all-black elementary school, an all-black town, all-black community, but I was distant from my own history. See, if grandmommy can't teach it and pass it to you, 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 then you don't know your history and he doesn't know his history because you didn't know your history because you couldn't pass it to him. So because no one had taken pride in learning their history, they couldn't pass it down. That's why in the Native American community, they do a wonderful job of spreading oral history so that they learn their history and they can give it to you verbatim. If I can't tell you who my great-grandmother is, that's terrible. Because if I don't know, how can my children's children know? So we have to learn how to preserve our history, all right? I'm bringing it down, bring it to a close. These are just some of the scenes that happened in the 60s. Do we want to duplicate those scenes? No, we do not. You know the gentleman that just came on YouTube with the American Idol? Hands on the ground, hands on the ground. Y'all heard up here? Okay, General Platt. I know General Platt personally. Okay? And I think I have the picture. It's either this one or he's standing here. But General Platt, who they made fun on in American Idol, who they had, The View was hilarious, seeing this 60-plus-year-old man who doesn't seem like he's kind of stable mentally. But General Platt was the young teenager that Dr. King and Andrew Young would send in front of them. And he would go in front of them with his zeal. And he got shot in the eye. He got bit by the dogs. But everything happened to him, and then Dr. King and Andy could come with the camera. So Dr. King is gone now, Andy's doing other things, but General Platt suffers from that. And so his mental stability is different. So we saw him pants on the ground, and people laughing at him, but we actually felt good. That finally he got his day in the sun for doing some hard work years ago. Students, it pays off to do hard work, okay? Give General Platt a round of applause. The #1 downloaded song in 2010. All right, move fast. Now, last slide. Let me tell you why this slide is so important. Who is this handsome young man right there? That's President Barack Obama. Give him a round of applause. Barack Obama is standing on the shoulders of many black men, yes. Many white men, yes. Many Hispanic men, yes. He's standing on the shoulders of all of those who pressed forward in their lives before they even knew who Barack Obama is or was going to be. He's standing on their shoulders. But there's something key in this photo that all of us must remember. When Barack went to the door of no return, they changed the name. The name now says door of return. And so as I was looking at the photo, I said, man, either someone cropped it out or someone's trying to be facetious, but that's really the door of no return. But as I began to analyze and think about it, being the door of no return is such a symbolic and historical fact that those who left the island and had no idea where they were going, had no idea what the 400 years would be like, had no idea that they would ever come to a point that a young man that looked like them could become the president. He's now returning home. But he's returning home as he once was. So he stood here as a king, as a governor in Ghana or in Egypt, and he went low from the trials and the tribulations and Jim Crow laws and all things that happened through segregation. And they went all the way through that and persevered. But as they persevered and began to have civil rights and human rights and voting rights, they began to rise again. And as they began to rise again, it didn't rise as only the black man going down. It rose as the black man, the brown man, the Caucasian man, the Native American man. So now it's the door of return, but not returning as segregated people, but returning as a unified people. Family, it's time for us to learn true unification. And as you see it in here, this is a beautiful picture. This is not all the blacks sitting on one side. It's not all the whites sitting on one side. It's not all the Hispanics sitting in the middle. No, it's a beautiful picture. But this is just a microcosm of what America has to look like. Because if it doesn't look like this throughout America, then we'll eventually get back to a door that we do not want to return. Thank you for bringing me here. I enjoyed you. I hope you enjoyed me. And to the superintendent and everyone here in Mount Vernon District 80, thank you so much. I look forward to speaking with you soon.
Once again, let's give Mr. Muhammad a round of applause. Now if I can call up Dr. Rice, before you step out, and a representative of the Minority Affairs and Human Relations Commission.